you doing? All right, I am Audrey Betcher, the 2021-22 president of your club. To get things started, Fred Suler is going to lead us in the four-way test.
Thank you, President Audrey. I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to give a mini reflection. I walked into this room today, and somebody shook my hand and greeted me. I played 16 holes of golf this morning and had no pain from my recent hip surgery. And yesterday, for the first time in over a year, it was at the Olmsted County Courthouse and appeared in a court hearing where everyone involved was in person and could see each other. So life is getting better. And with that, I'm going to kind of launch into the recitation of the four-way test of all the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Lauren will give us a reflection today.
Hello, everyone. This reflection is entitled 3 Alternatives to What Do You Do? And it's found from commonscience.com, which is actually a website that I co-host and part of a business that I co-founded. What do you do? Well, I do many things. I camp, I ski, I walk, I sleep. Oh yeah, and I happen to work as a research assistant at the University of Minnesota. Why is it that the first answers I proposed are unacceptable answers to this uniquely American question? Yet, the last is the one that's been deemed acceptable. We live in a complex society where access to resources is unequally distributed, and it is assumed that building our network permits us to enjoy a larger share of these resources. The goodwill of those in power is no doubt helpful to climbing the social hierarchy. However, we not only attempt to obtain this goodwill in a misguided manner, but we also generally seek it from the wrong people. Here are a couple thoughts about the question and the surrounding ideas. 1, let's create communities instead of networks. The word network is cold and impersonal. If someone is to join your network via connection on LinkedIn, for example, it implies a tit-for-tat relationship. Yet oftentimes, a person of lower social strata requests the connection in hopes for a one-way ticket up. That is simply not how human relationships work. How human relationships involve building trust over time and adding value to each other's lives now or in the future, much like Rotary fosters. 2, stay-at-home parents, gig workers, and students are necessary to any healthy community. You may have a duh response to the preceding sentence, yet many give negative or even neutral responses to people who respond to the question, what do you do? With something that's not an easy to digest job title. Those with chief executive and middle manager in their response are most definitely not the only persons worthy of attention. Stay-at-home parents are critical in raising our next generation. Gig workers hold multiple jobs and thus communities that might range from local restaurants to nearby clinics. And students might turn out to be the next Isaac Asimov, George Washington Carver, or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Moral of the story, treat everyone with respect. 3, most Americans don't care for their jobs, so stop asking. If I had $1 for every time that I've seen conversations dry up when one asks the other, what do you do? I would be wealthy. According to a 2016 Pew Research survey, 49% of American workers say that they're satisfied with their current job. In another survey in 2016, the Deloitte Center for the Edge found 64% of American workers half-heartedly engaged with their job, only 23% content with their job, and a paltry 13% passionate about their job. If so many people are unsatisfied with their work, instead of asking, what do you do? We might ask about more life-giving topics. The more thrilling the conversation, the more memorable, and the more possible an acquaintance might turn into a long-term relationship. Here are a couple of questions that I suggest you could possibly ask instead. Of course, though, in the common science vein, you should absolutely find your own questions that work best for you. 1, what's your passion? If this person is passionate about their work, awesome, let them talk about it. If not, Let them share about their last backpacking trip, or the latest book they've read, or the last movie they've watched. It is impossible to know where the latter conversation topics might end up, but you might just get a new recipe or date night idea in addition to a new friend. 2, what's your latest adventure? Again, the person's answer might be work-related, like the latest corporate merger. Contrarily, it might be bumping into a long-lost companion at the gym the other day, finding a new trail to walk on, or trying a new restaurant. Doesn't an adventure sound more fun to talk about than a job title anyways? Finally, 3, what's your story? This is my personal favorite. You might get weird responses or questions like, where should I begin? Assure them that you'd like them to start wherever they'd like, and provide a listening ear after. You'll be surprised how much people enjoy sharing their story, and you'll learn to enjoy how much you learn from another person's unique and windy life path. As always, I'm no expert, but a common scientist who asks questions, even questions about frequently asked questions. Take my suggestions as you will, do your own research and find what feels good. Finally, if you run into me someday and default to asking, what do you do? It's okay. Just don't be surprised with my outside of the box response. While I love my work, I do a lot of things outside of my job title. Sincerely, co-founder and common scientist, Aidan Nair.
Thank you, Lauren. And Colin is gonna, there you are, Colin. Yeah, well, at least, why don't you take the mic?
So Lauren, I am in at 13%. I can truly say I love my job most days. And following along with what she said, there are 2 things I ask my clients when they come into the office. What do you do when you're not working? What do you do when you're not working? And the other question I ask them is, what do you do to have fun? What do you do to have fun? So those are 2 very non-committal, I think. What do you do to have fun? What do you do when you're not working? Right, so fun. I'm going to introduce Robert Flanders. And we work over Robert. We have not done this for like 18 months, introducing guests in person. Robert Flanders, 1983 at gmail.com. Oh, sorry, that's your Gmail. That's your Gmail address. So I'm going to do something bold. I'm going to give you the microphone for 30 seconds. Tell us about what do you do to have fun.
Right now, unpacking boxes, I guess. Taking a break from that, walking one of our 3 dogs. I moved here from Virginia, so I'm tired of making that drive. I did it twice. So, I'm here because my wife is the new head of the Rochester Montessori School, and I'm currently a FINRA arbitrator, but it's kind of part-time work. FINRA, yeah.
I know what that is.
Yes.
I hope not to talk to you.
But I'm probably going to be looking for something a little more full-time. So, but I was a stockbroker for over 20 years. I spent 5 years, 10 months, and 28 days in the Navy on a Trident submarine. So those are some things I did for fun, I guess. Is my 30 seconds up yet?
I've never talked to a FINRA arbitrator before. I never hoped to again in my professional career. Robert, thank you so much. Any other guests or maybe on the Zoom? I don't know if we have any.
No guests on
or-
Zoom. Nope.
Thank you, Colin, and welcome, Robert. So I am going to resume the practice of celebrating birthdays and Rotary anniversaries. So I'm going to play a little catch up today and announce the birthdays and anniversaries so far in July. We have birthdays are George Allen, July 2nd, Suzanne Denison, July 2nd, Heather Holmes, July 2nd, Bill Carsel, July 2nd, Julie Brock, July 10th, Frank Sharborough, July 11th, Samantha Whipple, July 20th, Fred Suler, yesterday, sorry. David Herder, July 22nd. Bruce Ryan, July 22nd. Frank Allen, July 23rd. Mark Murch, July 25th. Lee J. Johnson, July 26th. So let's say happy birthday to all of our July birthdays. It took me a while to figure out how to do this on Club Runner. And anniversaries. We have Liz Davies at 3 years, John Lawson, 4 years, Darlene Feltus, 5 years, Janine Gagnes, 6 years, Diane Ilster, 12 years, Jeff Allman, 14 years, Barry Amadio, 18 years, Karen and Merlin Riffcliffs at 25 years, Betty Devine at 27 years, George Allen at 40 years, and Al DeVore at 52 years of Rotary membership.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. So the informal Rotary After Hours on the first Thursday of the month will resume on August 5th. We're going to meet at the corner of the Rochester Public Library at 2nd Street and 1st Avenue, right by the entrance of the ramp, or close to the entrance of the ramp, and walk over to enjoy Thursdays downtown. Free parking is available at the Civic Center ramp. And so we'll do that at 5:30 on August 5th. Tamsin is going to come up and make some announcements.
Hello. So I have a little handout because I have 3 announcements and I was afraid I wouldn't remember all of them. And if I didn't remember them, I thought that you might not either. So the first one is next week, a few of us were brainstorming something fun to do, and we thought about going to a Rochester Honkers game. So bring your friends, bring your family. For $10, you can get a general admission ticket, and then a soda and a pop, and $5 comes back to the club. So it's a little fundraiser for the club while we're having fellowship and enjoying a baseball game. The link is on here. Otherwise, it's also in the Moxon, but it's next Thursday, the 29th at Honkers Field. Game time is at 6:35. Second on the list is each year we do a golf outing. This year it looks a little bit different. We're not able to go to Willow Creek because they did not have availability for us that day. But I've been scoping out other courses, and I went to Northern Hills Golf Course, and I'm not sure if you know or not, but they have a brand new clubhouse. Last year the city put a new clubhouse out there, and it's amazing. It's really, really nice. So we are taking our golf outing on the road, and we're going to Northern Hills instead of Willow Creek. And that will be on Thursday, September 16th. So instead of our small group meeting that day, my small group is actually known for liking golf. So we're inviting you to the golf outing. Bring your friends, bring your family. The sign up will be available shortly. We're going to do lunch at Northern Hills at noon. I don't know what it'll be yet, but I'm planning that. And then tea time starting at 1. And then we're going to do a happy hour at 4:30. So come for one thing, come for all things, whatever works for you. We hope to see you there. And bring people with you. The more the merrier.
And you don't have to be good.
No. Well, you can play best ball. You can play whatever ball you want. You don't even have to hit the ball. You can just ride the cart. No judging. Oh, half of my team only rides the cart. It's just a fun day and just something different to get us all together. The third, it's a little bit further away, but we're still, it's very much on the radar, the Rotary Holiday Classic, which you all probably know about. It's our biggest fundraiser. I don't know, maybe not biggest. It's a big fundraiser for the clubs. It is on December 28th and 29th this year. We have 14 boys teams and 12 girls teams. I think I mixed that up. I think it's actually 12 boys and 14 girls, but in any case, a bunch of teams are ready to come and play basketball. We missed out last year, so we're super excited to have it again this year. Just a reminder that lots of volunteers are needed. Volunteers for the event are not out yet. If you want to be on the committee, we're always taking new members. We are going to start the advertiser and sponsor outreach. So if you're interested in helping with that in any way, let me know, because the more people to put the asks out there, the easier it is to divvy it up. And then just a friendly reminder that we do ask each Rotarian to purchase 2 discounted tickets Whether you're going to use the tickets for yourself to come to the game or give them maybe to a grandchild or a family member to come to the game, or just to make a donation for $40. So watch for that to come out too. And if you own a business, you'll probably see an email from us if you've been an advertiser or sponsor in the past. So please consider supporting the Holiday Classic. And that's it. We do have a website if you want to check out any of the details about the Holiday Classic that I might have missed. Any questions on any of my fun stuff happening? Thank you.
You, Tamsin. We appreciate the fun activities that are coming up. So don't forget to review the strategic plan, the draft of the strategic plan. The board will be voting on this at our August meeting. I did put copies on the table here, and there are also, it's also linked in the last Moccasin Flower. So for those of you online, it is in your email. Are there any other announcements before we begin our program? Okay. Jim Hunt is a member of the White Bear Lake Rotary Club. He was district governor during the 2016-2017 Rotary year. Jim has been a Rotarian since 1989. He's very active at both the club and district level. At the district level, he is a grants mentor on the district grant subcommittee, the district international service chair, and a member of the Fast for Hope steering team. Jim.
Thank you. Am I going to be able to see the presentation? So that I move it along, or we figure out how to move the slides forward? You want me closer to the mic or farther?
Yeah.
Closer to the mic, okay. I have to remember that. All right, well, it's nice to see some familiar faces. Hi, Lauren. We finally get to meet in person after all those Zoom calls. So. But I'm going to speak about Fast for Hope today. I guess I'm going to see it on the corner there. So I'm going to talk about Fast for Hope. We're going to talk about, tell you what it's about, what we're doing at the moment, and kind of give you an update about what's happening with it. And I'm a little bit running it blind because I'm used to running it so I can see it. So you'll see me sneaking around a little bit. Oh, there we go. Thank you. So when we're ready, when the technology's ready, but we have time, they tell me I have to 1 o'clock. And
tell a joke.
well, I will, because it fits in. You know why a past district governor is like an old tennis shoe? It's all worn out except the tongue. So I can sit here and talk for quite a while, you know. Part of the deal. That's about all I'm good for anymore. All right, so we're ready to go to the next slide when you're ready.
Okay.
All right, what is Fast for Hope? It's actually the only district-wide project that we have. All the rest of the grants that are going are all driven by club level. This is driven by the district level. It's one, and because of that, it allows us to do some things differently. It allows us to experiment with it a little bit. It allows us to do a long-term project, ongoing. Most grants really run a year, maybe 2 years, however long it takes to run them. This is one that's been going on for several years. Excuse me again. And we'll continue about it. It allows us to be creative. It allows us to take risks. It allows us to do some things outside of the box that we've not done before. So you will advance for me?
I sure can.
Thank you. The vision statement and mission statements are listed up there partially because we revisited them last fall, redone it. And so when we look forward to
We need a signal.
we need a single. So you're
Well,
gonna,
a signal. You know,
so if I do this one,
got it.
okay, we'll get it figured out. I have to learn it too. So. This is kind of what I'll call core values, the ones that are started, the ones we'll talk about a little bit more that are important on this one. But fostering an accompaniment. Instead of being a project that kind of comes to people, tells them what they need to do, what we've really done is try to build up the individuals in the community in Nicaragua that we're working from. We want to work with them. We don't want to give something to them. The country has a history of, I'll call it dictatorship and dependency. And so they're used to being told what to do. And so we're really saying, no, you really have to develop that within yourself. In order to be sustainable, it's got to be driven by the community itself. It's not going to be driven by somebody from the outside. Same with the self-sufficiency part of it. It really has to be owned by the community, moved on by the community. Again, from being from the outside, we're there to support, accompaniment, and move on. Ready. So the mission statement, there are a couple things in there. I'll talk about extreme poverty. Excuse me, I'm not sure what I got on here today. There are many definitions of extreme poverty. One you're probably most familiar with is living on $2 a day or some $1.50 a day or something. There are several others that we've been using that are much more inclusive of a community, such as, what kind of roof do you have on your main dwelling? What kind of floor do you have? Is it dirt? Is it tile? Is it concrete? Those kind of things. How do you get around? Do you go by bicycle? Do you walk? Are you wealthy enough to have a motorcycle? Those kind of activities that you tend to get a better view of how the community works together on that. Sustainability comes up again. We want a project that goes on, and we've tried to do this. That's something that we can replicate and move on to other communities. So we're ready. So I keep changing my signals.
You do, but
I do.
I'm with it. I
Amber's
got it.
pretty good at this. So the basis for the model that we built was actually from the 2006 Rotary International Convention when Jeffrey Sachs spoke. There were some of the Rotarians from our district that were there and really listened to him and took it to heart. Because what he had to say was that we are really the first generation that has the wherewithal to eliminate poverty in the world if we have the desire to do so. And so that's where it started from. There's some reading lists there that I would strongly recommend. 2 books by Bob Lupton. I've had the honor of doing a seminar with Bob, and he's very interesting about it. He's one that lives what he talks about. He actually moved his family into inner city Atlanta 40 years ago to work with the community to move it forward. And what they discovered now, they had their 40th anniversary last year. They're now in the 5th community. It takes about 10 years. It almost takes an whole generation to change things over, to change the role of being dependent to being independent, part of the deal. Well, there's an interesting one there that's called Poverty Inc. If you have Prime, Amazon Prime, you can get the documentary there. It talks about Haiti and the earthquake and the things that happened there. But what I found real interesting about it, I did not know that Haiti was a net exporter of rice prior to the earthquake and the hurricane. Basically, when you think about it, what did the third or the first world send to Haiti? What was rice? What did that do to the farmers who that was their subsistence? That was their cash crop. We don't think about those kind of things, but it really starts to lend to that dependency. And I think that most of the aid that we've given over the last few years have been, yes, it starts as response to an extreme event, which is good, but we have a hard time transitioning to how do we build up the community and make it a sustainable, livable community rather than being dependent on all the stuff that's coming in. So some good resources are there that I suggest that you look after. When you think about aid in the world, I'll say that the governments of the world have done a good job of giving away money, but I don't think they've given it to the right people or in the right way. Sometimes you think about who are the beneficiaries. It should be the people on the ground who are receiving the aid, but oftentimes it's the donors who are the most ones that are benefited most times. So it makes it a little bit different. Amber?
Sorry. I
That's
was
all right.
Distracted. I was thinking my dad.
So we've moved to Nicaragua. Fast for Hope started probably 12, 15 years ago as an idea. Basically what it was in the title comes from the fact that it was skip a meal and donate the funds that we would have paid for the meal to the project. And that's where Fast Growth comes from. We probably could stand to change the name of it, rebrand it a little bit, but we haven't figured out what it is yet, type thing. So, but this is probably the key slide of what I'm going to talk about today. What have we really learned from this? And you'll see that the word community comes up many times. It really is the community. The community have to define the needs. The community needs to lead the project. The community really needs to be the first investor, particularly when you're working with a community that has limited resources. If they're willing to put the few dollars that they have into a project, your likelihood of success goes up dramatically. If they're not willing to invest in it, then there's a reason why. For them, they don't see a benefit. The example I'll give, and it happened in Nicaragua, was a German NGO came in with what I'll call appropriate technology, which is a bicycle-driven water pump. So you'd sit on the bicycle and you pedal it and it'll pump water. I say appropriate technology. The problem was that after 6 months, the chain broke and it sat there. The German NGO came back next year and, well, what happened to your pump? And the people looked at him and said, what do you mean our pump? You never asked us if we needed it. We didn't need it for water. When are you going to fix your pump? So it's back to the need. Who determined the need on that one? And that becomes a critical thing. So we'll move on. So this is kind of shows the two models, the traditional model on the left, and it really becomes important who determines that need. A lot of times we'll go in, people will go in and say, this is what you need, but it's not what the community needs. You've got to ask that question. And now for doing global grants, as you know, Lauren, you've got to do a needs assessment. That's a real key thing that happens up front. It's got to be a broad perspective of the community that helps gets the needs. You don't want just the 3 people that own the houses in town to define what the need is. It's a broad spectrum. So consequently, when the need was developed the old way, and with just a couple of people, you ended up with a lot of pet projects that actually failed many times because of that. So what we moved to is a model that's more iterative. One, you get the needs from the community, and you keep asking and keep going back to make sure that the feedback's happening, that it's doing what you want it to do, that it's moving forward to find out where the things are there. I'll give you an example for El Carrozo, which is the community we're working with. When we originally went with them and really worked to the fact of what were their needs, it was a road, because they're in the mountains, and about 6 months of the year, the road's impassable because of the rainy season, because of drainage issues. It was water, because again, that 6 months of the year, they had to walk about 3 miles to get the water. It was literacy and it was health. Well, the road, I think, well, they looked as Rotarians as the white knights that were going to provide them with a road. Well, it's taken us a while to get to the point where, no, we're not going to provide that road. We'll help you get through the process, but it's got to be your local government that builds that road. It's not going to be us. You think about Rochester, you try to put a road in here. It's a minimum of 5 years from this point where you start with the idea, you get the land and all the rest of it to finally build it. It's taken the community in El Carrozo to realize it's going to take them a while. Water, for them, water ended up number 4 out of the 4 needs. And I'm passionate about water and water projects around the world. So for me, it was always hard to go, okay, let's move the water up on the priority list. It took me a while to figure out that what the walking for water in the morning and walking back was the socialization that the community was able to have. It was the only time that as a community, they really got together and got to talk. And so it really was an important part of that. Now that happens to have changed over the last couple of years with a new leadership group in the community. Water's come back up as the number 1 priority. And I'm glad to see that. Literacy and health, we worked on both of those. We did a book reading program, and then we did what's called community pharmacies in Nicaragua, trained the people, trained 4 individuals on how to basically run a little pharmacy and sell over-the-counter drugs to the community at a little bit of a profit so that they could expand what they were doing. They moved into blood pressure, and they're asking to get training to look at diabetes on it. So that one's real helpful for them. We're ready to move to the next one. The challenges we've had in Nicaragua, to say the least, have been, the first one's political unrest. And that's, now it's been 3 years since basically it's been locked down. Nicaragua, without going into a lot of history, it was run by dictatorships, the Somozas from the 20s or 30s up into the mid 80s when the Sandinistas overthrew the government. Well, once they overthrew the government, what they did was they had an election, and it was one of the first times that the revolutionary group had an election and actually lost the election and let it stay that way. Well, Daniel Ortega ran the Sandinistas at that point. It took him 3 iterations of elections before he got elected president, before he'd build up the political party on it. But once he got into power, he's basically changed it back to a dictatorship again. His wife is vice president. The two of them run the country. And the unrest started, like I say, it's about 3 years ago. They decided that, similar to our Social Security, what they were going to do was they couldn't afford it. So basically everybody had to go on 10% of what you got before, but yet your prices were going up. And that's what started to lead to the unrest. There were probably 450 to 500 people that have died over the period of time. A lot of things have happened. A lot of people have been imprisoned. And it's the point of, as a dictatorship, it's their next election is coming up this fall. But the 12 people who could have run against him have all been arrested on some charge or another. So there's not really there's going to be an election, but we know who's going to win the election on this one. And one of the things that I found real interesting was the fact that the waving of the Nicaraguan flag is now considered a sign of protest, and it's banned by the government. Think about that as, you know, we can talk about American flags and Confederate flags, but think about if they're banned as being able to even show them. That's what's happened in Nicaragua.
Wow.
So throw on top of that the fact that 2 hurricanes last fall, which really the eastern part of Nicaragua got overwhelmed with it, with all the rainfall on it. And then you had COVID come along. And for Nicaragua, and from the dictatorship's point of view, COVID didn't happen. There was only 4 cases in the country. Well, what happened was basically at least 3 times the head of the National Health Association tried to explain that no, there were a few more cases, and they got fired. So they went through 3 directors before they finally got somebody that would agree with Ortega on that one. So it's been a real challenge. So, and then the government, when COVID came in, what they did was they sent out government workers to every family in the rural area. You'd have 3 people come and knock on your door and tell you, everything's okay, don't worry about it. But where are they coming from? Managua, where the city where it's happening, out to the country to go ahead and spread it. And then tell you it's not happening. So it really was backwards on the whole thing. So I'm ready. So actually, I'm going to sidetrack a little bit on that. I'm not sure where it was in the slides. But one of the things we did was we did basically a COVID kit for the families in El Corozo, which basically was water, masks, hand sanitizers, a couple other items, and then got them out to the 350 families as a kind of a grant to give them to them to get started. And then we've done it actually twice to help them do that. But politically, you have to be very careful about it because you can give away the mask and stuff, but you've got to say, but it doesn't exist. You know, it's kind of a delicate balance that has to be walked on. So what do we do moving forward? We've worked with Kairos over the years, the NGO there, and Elena, some of you have met over the years. They're really good at building up the community, building up the necessary understanding with the community that they can drive the things themselves. They're really good at the social aspects, the socialization aspects. What they've not been really good at is the economic development part of it. And that's kind of why we've shifted a little bit to Opportunity International to work that economic point. And Opportunity International is an interesting organization. They're in 23 countries around the world. Their core value, or what their core project is microfinance. They've been very successful about it. What they've discovered with microfinance is that helps individuals and it helps families, it doesn't necessarily help a community. And so they have a project going in Nicaragua that's similar to ours and why we've connected with them, trying to bring a whole community up rather than just individuals. And we're back to it's a rural subsistence farming area that we're in. And so they've really worked with agricultural specialists to say, what can we do to improve your crops? And farmers are either most conservative or the most risk-taking people I've ever met. And this has been a good example of it. The major crop is cassava root. You know, it's a root that comes out, sometimes you see in the grocery stores here, it's basically a starch. But the traditional way of planting it was you cut a piece of it and stick it in at a 45-degree angle, and then off the base of it where the next tuber would grow. Well, with the agronomist working with them, you know, if you lay it flat on the ground, you get two tubers out of it. You can double your production. But it takes you a while to get to that sense that, are you really going to risk your whole crop to maybe double it? So it's taken time, and some of the farmers we've talked with were interesting. And I don't remember what his first name was, but basically he said, I did it for about 3 years. My neighbors didn't believe me until I started hiring them to help harvest the crop, to realize how much I had coming in, to really spread it. And it takes time and effort to spread it. The other thing that Opportunity International did was they built a cassava processing plant. And cassava is an interesting thing because it ripens in about 4 or 5 months, but it can sit in the ground for 6 months and doesn't deteriorate. But once you harvested it, you only have about 48 hours to deal with it. And so that's where the processing plant came into view, because they could do, you know, Lauren's crop on Monday, they could do Jose's crop on Wednesday, somebody else's crop on Friday. So they could schedule it in the plant. It's up the percentage of a quality product that's come out. And then on the backside of it, they got Cargill guaranteed that they buy anything the plant would produce. So now they have a market outlet for it. So it's starting to work its way through on with Opportunity International. Okay. So there we go. So Opportunity International does what they call a vibrant community index. And I'll call it similar to a needs assessment, but it's also looking at the total assets of the community. And assets being, maybe you're a bricklayer. Well, the making of bricks is your skill. That's an asset for your community. And looking at the assets you have on that. They have about 30 communities that they'd like to work with. They really only have 12 communities that they've managed to complete the vibrant community index with and really start to do projects going forward with. There are another 18 of them that are on the wings on the side. And this is where Rotary has stepped in and said, okay, we think we can work with you. We've taken on 2 of the communities to help with that development part of the thing. And that's how Opportunity looks at Rotary. This will allow them to expand the number of communities they're in. From our perspective, this allows us to expand the number of communities we're in. So that's a win-win for the 2 groups on that. Kairos, you know, we've been traditionally with, El Corozo with Kairos with 1 community there, but this is allow us to change it forward. So we're actually, you know, divorce is too strong a word. We're going to move away from Kairos a little bit and, you know, keep them with the social activities that they're doing. But we're really, in order to do the economic ones, moving with Opportunity International. So where are we at? Target communities. I can't pronounce the first one, Honda. I'll be honest, I've taken Spanish, beginning Spanish 4 times. I'm still in beginning Spanish for a reason. So I struggle with that one. But we've worked with communities. I've not been in either one of these communities because it's been now 2.5 years since I've been down there. But we're working with them, moving it forward, getting to meet them, but still working with the El Corozo community on that. Okay. Okay, so this is where, I guess the slide was here that I wanted to talk about a little earlier, what we had done with El Corozo, but about the kits that we've developed. We've actually gone forward with that second round of providing a kit for the families. We actually ended up charging them a small amount. It would be on the order of about little less than 50 cents. But the families came forward with it and said, we want it. And then it gives the community a little bit of money to work with as they move forward with projects. Okay. My problem with trifocals is they've got this nice little screen in front of me, but I can't see it well enough. So I'm having to look at the big one. So I talked about the health projects we did, the library projects we did. It talks about water here, roads down to kind of the bottom of the list. The other thing that complicates the road project is it goes between two municipalities. And so you have to get both mayors in on it. They've had 2 sets of elections in the time we've been there. The mayors have changed. You have to keep working your way through the political system on that. But like I say, the water has come back up as a priority. We're gonna have to drill a deep well. It's gonna be almost 2,000 feet in the mountains in order to get to water. We've contracted with a group that will come up on one of the following slides. That really what they do is, this is what their expertise is drilling wells. But the bigger part of that is the water commission that goes with the well. How do you manage the well? How do you charge for the water so that you have the money to do it when you need to repair it? And actually the community now, or the NGO right now, won't put a well in unless the community has the water commission up and running. And we have that started in El Corozo. So Planting Change is the name of the organization. But we've looked at, we've got Engineers Without Borders to kind of oversee the project, to make sure they're doing what they need to do. We're willing to spend a little bit of money to make sure that it happens the way it should happen. Because it is a challenge. We're not down there enough. We want to make sure that it happens properly on that. We've done a district grant to do just kind of the overview of it, to make sure that we're covered with it. We've got a global grant moving forward from the Stillwater Rotary Club to really drill the well itself to get that there. So we're looking for support on those kind of activities, but Planting Change has been a good group to work with on this one. So the future of the initiative, we had worked with Opportunity International in a 1-year partnership that actually ended on end of June. Re-up the partnership for another year because we think from both sides, from their side, they think it's beneficial. We think it's been beneficial. We'll keep moving forward with that because we think that gets to the economics part of the community and how you really eliminate poverty. You can do some things in the social aspects, but in the end, you have to raise the standard of living somehow. So we'll keep moving forward with that. That's all right, you go. So we're back to the extent of how you can be involved, and this is a district-wide initiative that's done by voluntary contributions. We ask clubs in the district to support $10 per member and donate to the Fast for Hope. That's where we get our funding from to do it, to keep it ongoing. We'd like to get back to doing cultural delegations, which is really visits to Nicaragua, which I always find the fun part, is the cultural side of it. What works, learning about the culture, learning about the history of it from the people there. We had tentatively planned one for this fall, but things have just not moved far enough with the COVID activity that we can do it. So we're probably off to next spring at least. But again, those will come up. And we're always, people are interested in going. We're glad to have you, let you come along to do this, because that's how you learn, we get your ideas out of the whole thing. It's beneficial from both sides of that. So what we're trying to do is make lasting, sustainable change. This is the community we're working with. And with that, I'll open it up for questions. Lauren.
Jim, I'm wondering,
Yeah, they can't hear you on Zoom otherwise.
I'll repeat the question if you want.
okay, my question is about water and sustainability. I'm wondering if rain catchment has been considered instead of well drilling in the mountains. It's less expensive and more sustainable from my knowledge.
The question was about water. Have we looked at containment or catchment systems versus drilling a well? The problem is you have 6 months of water that rains and 6 months that's dry. And it's that 6 months that's dry that's the challenge of getting water. When it's raining, when it's the wet season, then catchment systems work. But we've looked at it, but for that area, we don't think it's gonna work real well. So the conclusion was, working with a couple of different organizations to say, no, this looks like a community that you need to drill a well. So, okay, somebody over here had a question.
Well, I just wondered how you relate and interact with the rural community service projects that Rotary does. I guess they're national, right, and international, but Nicaragua is international as well.
So the question was, how do we interact with the World Community Service projects? We've worked with different organizations, we've worked with different Rotary clubs, and it kind of depends upon the community you're working in. There is a group that actually several years ago bought a drilling rig that ended up in Nicaragua, and it's in one of the rural areas. And so we worked with trying to figure out if that made more sense to use that drilling rig or to go totally with somebody else. We've kind of come to the conclusion that we're going to go with planning change to do the drilling on that. So it's kind of on an individual basis, an individual project of what's going on as to how to work with it. Yes.
Jim, common question. How did this get organized within Rotary as a district project? Separate, as we're more familiar with the individual club kind of projects. And secondly, what is the organizational structure within the district that keeps the momentum going and the leadership and doing activity?
The question was around how did we get to having this as a district grant versus a traditional club-driven grant, and then what's the structure within the district to keep it going? The first thing I would say is that it really came back from the leadership of the district governors that back in 2006 that went to the International Convention, and deciding that this was a broader perspective that needed to happen than just an individual club driving it. And so that's where it started, and it's where now we have the Fast for Hope steering team that really works on it, of which I think we have 4 past district governors on the group at the moment. So it's kind of, that's the structure we have. We're always looking for more people if you're interested. Any volunteer organization, if you're ready to volunteer, we'll always take you, but type thing. But that allows us to spread it across the district, and it's really up to the steering committee to make sure that the project keeps going and moves forward on it. So the steering committee reports directly to the board of directors, and that's how the connection happens. Okay, I thought I had another question over here. Okay, anybody online on the Zoom side of things? Let's see. Yes, Ella.
Jim, Allie Good talking here. You've been doing this project. You mentioned you kind of looked at the model in 2006. When did Fast for Hope begin? Oh, Joseph.
Fast for Hope, actually, I'm thinking it began probably 15 years ago. Originally, they tried to do water wells in Haiti. We ended up drilling 2 dry wells and realizing that we didn't have the infrastructure in Haiti to do that. Basically, nobody had done the hydrological studies to help figure out where you could drill a well. So consequently, we moved then to Nicaragua about 10 years ago. We've been with El Carrozo now, I think 7 or 8 years. It took us a while to find a community that really wanted to work with, that wanted to work with us. One of the first communities we went into, I don't even remember the name of it anymore. Basically, the community listened to the project, and one of the women pulled Bev Driscoll aside and said, in the end, and said, why don't you just tell us what you want us to do, give us the money and go home. And we're going, that's not the model we're trying to work with. We're trying to really build up the community to make their own decisions. And then the next community was really kind of interesting. It was like, all they wanted us to do was support the couple of students to go become doctors. That's what the community wanted out of us. And that's not, again, not what we were looking for the community. So does that answer your question? It does. So it's really been with El Carrozo for about 8 years now on that. So, all right, other questions? Well, I admit it's nice to be able to do this live again. I can get that feedback. A little bit of a challenge doing it by Zoom. And when it's the same kind of thing, nobody asks questions, you go, okay, what did I miss? Did I bath long or what? You know, get down to it. So, but thank you for your time.
So I heard a rumor that Joseph has a good story about being at the park last night. Do you want to share?
So as you know, every once a month we are here. We are going to White Oak Park to clean up, and I encourage you to do that because you could find $100 bill as I did yesterday, and actually. Coming to this meeting, I stopped in my bank and I deposited in my banking account, and there was no police, or something. So it looks like it will do it. And my intention is actually to donate these $100 to this club. So please, next month, Wednesday, I don't know. In 4 weeks, you may come again, and maybe you will be lucky as well.
And John, I heard John found a dime.
I found a dime.
All right, so a couple more things. I need to make sure I was giving good information here. We are back here next week. It is a fifth Thursday. We're going to be back here at the Country Club, and it'll be hybrid again. And we will feature a program by Channel 1 in the community and how we partner into the future. So that will be here next Thursday. So as we close out, I want to give thanks to all who assisted today. Our tech team, Mark and Joseph and Amber, keeping us going here. Colin, our greeter, Fred, for leading us in the 4-way test. Lauren, who provided the reflection. John at the visitors table, and our sergeant at arms. And again, a special thanks to our speaker, Jim Hunt. Thank you all. Serve to change lives. We are adjourned.
No problem.
So